Someone told me today that you have to babysit everyone as Winston. Well, one of the big things about Winston is that since you have such low damage, like personal damage, if you go against a coordinated team, you have to coordinate yourself, and it basically falls on you to do all of that coordination. So, you're in Alberta too? Brother, I feel your pain. What will it take for Doomfist to be viable, or will he always be niche? Oh goodness. Like, the reason why Doomfist kind of sucks is that he has no long-range poke at all, right? He's very all or nothing. He has to commit, and he has to commit in a way where it's basically him or the other guy. Somebody's going to come out dead. So, I don't know. He's a weird character design. I don't think he's ever going to be viable in the same way that, like, Soldier and Tracer are almost always viable. And especially since he's so very heavily reliant on rollouts. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't see it becoming a thing. Okay. Okay. Oh, pause. Pause, 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 pause. He's actually hitting tab. No. 33, 40. You play on a pretty low render scale. Oh, okay, there we go. So nice. I like this. I really like this. The Orisa and the Roadhogs are really nice front line. Is this actually Masters? Who the hell holds here in Masters? Really? Fuck, this is amateur hour shit. So Roadhog and Orisa, good. I love the synergy here. I love the Zenyatta because he's going to be well protected behind the shields. He adds to the aggression here. Anna's a little bit questionable, but still pretty good because you needed some sort of primary healer. Like, Mercy would honestly probably be better so that Mercy could heal the Zenyatta better, as well as pocket the Widow. So, and like, Anna's certainly not the worst thing ever. It definitely gives you more utility with the sleep darts and the anti-nades, but if she's not getting sleep dart and anti-nade utility, her nano boost isn't really going to be very effective. So, she's gonna have to work pretty hard to get much value, but this is definitely a weak point in the composition. Weak point. And then you're on Tracer, which is kind of necessary here because you've got Widowmaker, and Widowmaker is what you would consider an inconsistent damage source. So, she can miss shots, she can like pop off and hit 3 headshots in a row, but you never really know. So you want to have some sort of high damage, much more consistent DPS, and Tracer fits that niche. So I like where you fit into this. I like that you're kind of going to be flanking and getting these crossfire setups, which is one of the weaknesses of static defense compositions, is that they don't normally have some sort of crossfire. So I like this comp. The things that I don't like about this comp is that Anna should probably be Mercy here. And you're holding in just a fucking brain dead location. What about Junk instead of Tracer? Yeah, Junk would work. Junk would work fine here. If you were doing Junk, then I would be expecting my Widow to be setting up more crossfires. But, yikes. So, you never want to be holding in this location, because this is putting you inside of their spawn. If you retreat, you're retreating in ways that they can actually kill you. It's just terrible. You want to be holding much more near point or around hotel.
Yeah, so assumption.
Like, this is so silly.
Ask one guy a question and get told to change by another guy. Oh, fucking Fortnite.
And that's never a good sign. It's absolutely never a good sign when you eat a fire strike and you have to go get a health pack when it's at the very start of the fight. It's just, I already tell that your healers are not going to be very strong this game. Case in point, your Ursa's already dead. Oh, interesting. I'll look into that, John. Would you say that Tracer is almost always necessary in this current meta? You have to have a real fucking good reason not to run Tracer in this meta, yeah. I'm pretty sure you recalled on purpose to bait the Zenyatta into you. Pretty good. Your team, like, there's not really much that you did wrong here. Your team just got rolled over immediately. So far, there's not enough to give you any tips. Like you didn't really play this badly enough for me to criticize you for it.
No, I fucked my blink.
You
Oh,
blinked
that's
into the
very
car.
funny.
That's unfortunate.
Hopefully my team can come back into that. I managed to get some good contests there. I was expecting it to go a wee bit earlier. It's kind of unfortunate how long they took. I'm not 100% sure what the problem was.
So both of your recalls were a little bit wonky. I'm not sure if they was just coincidence or if that's how you use recall just in general, but we'll keep watching and see.
Kills have went fairly evenly so far. Still
Your
going
Widow's
pretty
pretty
well.
good. Your Widow's also
They are
smurfing.
eventually going to win this fight because they have the closer spawn. I keep
Yeah.
fucking
Are you gonna?
easy blanks, which is starting to tilt me already.
I like that you're kind of narrating your gameplay. It's a good way to really keep yourself focused. But so far your recalls are very poor. Well, just gonna let it play a little bit longer because I want to see more of your playstyle before I start offering tips. But so far, all three of the recalls that we've seen, like the first one kind of turned out because it put you in a location to get that Zenyatta, but the other two were in the same style and didn't serve the same purpose. So I'm not sure if the first one was just coincidence or not. The first one was a bait? Okay, yeah. That's what I figured.
I'm going for this mega. We still got a very reasonable time there. Are they gonna stay on this widow? No, they're gonna. They have junk instead of widow now.
Your team's so far back. Holy smokes. Please don't engage on this.
Oh my fucking Christ, man.
Yeah, right. Your team's nowhere. Like what? So this is something that a lot of Tracer players struggle with is the timing itself, and the fact that your team is like in fucking Narnia. These red people that you're attacking right here can't even see your team. So right now, if you engage, it gives the opponent the opportunity to basically 6v1 you because they can deal with you at their leisure. They can peel. They can burn all of their resources to deal with you. And they will likely kill you. However, if you engage in the backline like you did here, when your front line is engaging their front line, you saw there that their Zarya bubbled the Zenyatta, but if you engaged at a time in which your front line is pressuring their front line, then Zarya now has to decide whether bubbling the Zenyatta is worth it to lose the front line aggression or of bubbling the Reinhardt. So attacking in poor timings like this allows the opponent to invest as many resources as they want into killing you without getting punished for it. So the timing here is really honestly very bad. If you wanted to kind of like delay them or distract them or try and bait out opportunities, I'd sit probably like 15, 20 meters away and be like, just annoying them, kind of like building pulse, baiting into them to chase me off of the payload. But until your team is ready to engage on the front line, you can't really do much as Tracer. How about dropping down and going for the one clip on the Zen and quickly recalling to the high ground? Yeah, but if you do that, you're basically doing nothing for the next 12 seconds. That's a very all or nothing, because if you don't have recall, you have to play extremely passive because your best means of survivability is gone. So, like, you can go for the one clip on Zenyatta, but the Moira was right there. The Zarya was there. Blinks make a lot of noise. It's pretty unlikely that you're going to one clip a Zenyatta in the middle of their team. Yeah, this is a week old. Since I work on timing, I've climbed 300, 400 SR. Nice.
I don't know what's wrong with my belt pumps today. I really need to work on them.
Oh. Aim.
Oh my fucking Christ, man.
So your acquisition speed's actually pretty good. So when you're like blinking and having to do 180s, your 180s are pretty good, but your tracking is a lot worse than I would expect.
I don't know what's wrong with my belt pumps today. I really need
Would
to
stick
work
than
on them.
spawn camp? Yeah, you could do that. Yeah, your aim's pretty garbage here. Yeah. Oof, 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 oof.
My teammate's going. Guys, we need to go in. Let's go. Let's go in. And now. Oh, I'm dead.
That's unfortunate. Oh man. But
Fixated on our tower. He's a very.
okay, so a general rule, right, is we don't look at the career profiles of our teammates because it just tilts us. It's you know, it doesn't really matter. Like you looking at a person's career profile does not give you a competitive advantage in any sort. The only thing it really serves to do is just tilt you. So I wouldn't recommend it here, but I'm gonna be interested to see your aim throughout. Like we're gonna pay a little bit more attention to your aim because right now your aim is very just all over the place. It's not good. You're trying to do smooth tracking, but you're over tracking. So over tracking is when a target is like right here, and if your crosshair is here, when you're trying to move your crosshair onto the target, instead of kind of, you know, if your crosshair was here, and you just move your crosshair to the target, and then you'd end up with your crosshair on the target. Over tracking is where your crosshair goes off the target, and then you put your crosshair here. So you kind of go over your target, and then after you've gone over your target and your crosshairs here, you kind of over track back, and you just keep kind of like sweeping over your target over and over and over again. And this is more of a mental discipline thing in that you have to consciously train yourself instead of going past your target. So this is bad, whereas this is good. So it's better to under track than over track. So if you under track, you can kind of just make the last minute adjustment. But if you over track, then you have to change the direction in which your mouse is actually moving. So this is kind of like a conscious effort in order to actually improve your aim, is to work on under tracking and then minor corrections instead of over tracking and then just swinging your mouse everywhere.
Very bad with it. Dude, if you can't play Hog, just play whatever.
It's just conscious. You just have to consciously force yourself not to go past. Just smaller, because if you can correct, you know, if you are 100 units away from your target, if instead of going 120 units and then going past your target and then you kind of like going back and forth, if you just kind of like correct slower and slower to your target, it's just you're just forcing your aim slowly on the target. I don't know of any drill that can kind of like specifically practice that style of aim other than just consciously making an effort not to overtrack. Undertrack, correct. Undertrack, correct. Undertrack, correct. Instead of overtrack. I kind of overtrack. Okay, so this is actually something interesting. I overtrack when I have 4,000 EDPI. I tried going lower, but it fucks up my 180s. I fell into the trap of thinking that overtracking was based on sensitivity, and it's not. It's 100% not. And my sensitivity at one point was 2,400 EDPI, so ridiculously low. And even on 2,400 EDPI, not only was I still overtracking, but my overtracking actually got worse because when I was making such large arm movements that I couldn't make changes in direction fast enough. So I would overtrack and then I'd have to drag my arm back. And so if you think that lower sensitivity will solve overtracking, it doesn't. Absolutely does not. It's a conscious effort and practice. You know, ideally, of course, you want to put your crosshair onto the target with no correction. But if you're going to be inaccurate, it's better to undertrack and then make a minor correction in the same direction than overtracking and trying to just sweep your crosshair back and forth to get it actually on the target itself. Yeah, I played on 2800 DTPI and my overcorrection was worse. Yeah, absolutely. It just takes conscious effort to practice and eliminate that that fault in your aim style.
I'm just getting randomly shot down by
When aiming, do you keep your eyes on the crosshair or eyes on the target? Always eyes on the target.
There's no pressure. We have no
Always eyes on the target.
Cube Davis, you're not doing much more, mate. Please, like, stop fucking just telling me. You have absolutely no room at all. Neither of you are doing anything. It's not just him. Why are you not swinging there? There's fucking 3 people standing next to you and you have Nano.
Oh, you're tilted down. That's unfortunate. So, we only got to see kind of like the 3 recalls, but so far, aim and timing are going to be the 2 sort of like biggest things with your play so far.
Please, just stop talking.
You are tilted.
Just pick, like, Moira, like a brain dead hero that you can actually play instead of just talking the whole time. Thank you.
Key is center the target on the screen, not move the crosshair. Yeah, if you want to think about that way, perfect. Do removing the UI and shooting bots benefit you? Yes, I think so. I think like pressing Alt Z in the training range and trying to shoot bots' heads on McCree it's interesting. At the very least, it'll give you insight into your own aim style. So yeah, if you've never gone into a training range and just pressed Alt Z or Alt Zulu, do that and try and shoot bots' heads on McCree. It'll actually be a lot easier than you think it is without your crosshair. And once you realize how little you actually need your crosshair, maybe it will change the way you think about aim.
I don't care. I'm gonna block him now because he's already starting to tell me.
Uh-oh, we're on to quad DPS. Oh no, things are going wrong.
I'm not gonna give a shit what he says.
Ban this man. He needs to check team profiles to more accurately shit talk? Who doesn't do that?
You know what? He said it. I'm just gonna reinforce him.
Man's bent at a 90-degree angle. Oh, that is good. I'm going to have to steal that one. Okay, so now you're running Zarya Roadhog, which, honestly, you can make it work on King's Row. Because you just, like, constantly work on giving that Roadhog, like, maximum aggression. And then you just give him a little bit of support, and it gets your Zarya to 100 energy. As long as they don't have an Orisa. Like, Orisa would hard counter Zarya Roadhog. But Zarya Roadhog plays in a very, very similar style to the Diva Roadhog. So they do have a shield, which means it's not going to be like the best comp ever, but it's not the worst either. That's unfortunately. So ideally. Maps none. Where the fuck am I going? King's Row, right? Do you think there are neurological differences that affect aiming style? You know what? That is a great question, and I am not qualified to answer that. I would just be guessing. Man, I could make some shit up and I could bullshit you if you want me to pretend I know the answer, but I ain't got a fucking clue, man. I am not a brain scientist. Okay, let's actually turn sound up because it sounds weird when there's no sound. Oh, I actually got golden tracer guns on this account, I forgot. So yeah, here, you were trying to go through hotel itself, and Tracer prefers open territory. She doesn't like corners like this, because it makes her movement, her appearance, really predictable, and it doesn't give her as much mobility, whereas, you know, if somebody's here, you can be like, woo, 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 I'm here now, I'm here now. I'm here now. It's like, it's really, Tracer in the open is just a pain in the ass, honestly. Because she can just dodge like crazy. So instead of trying to push your way through hotel, which, you know, they can look through this door, they can spam these doors out here, a much better way to do it is to set up the full 180-degree crossfire. Is that you want to be operating in a location that basically zones out their retreat. So if you were to kind of flank around the right side instead of through hotel and be in alley here, you could kind of use this as cover as we want, but shoot them here. And then if your front line is pressuring them, this is making sure that they don't have a place where they could stabilize. Like, if they back up into alley, you're still fighting them here. And if they do try to engage you, well, you have this mini pack here, you have this mega health pack right here. So setting up this kind of crossfire is a lot better. This is a flank, yes, but it's a flank that is very easily contested. because although you went left and your team went right, it's the same angles. Like, if a person is defending into alley, whether they're shooting here, where your team is, or here, where you are, this isn't really a flank. It's, you know, you might call this a soft flank. And on Tracer, especially, you want to be setting up, not just flanking, but during a fight, before an opportunity has presented itself, you want to be setting up crossfires and looking for opportunities in this sort of regard. So another map where this is really, really noticeable is on shit like Horizon Lunar Colony. Why do you cap your FPS at 154 instead of 144? Oh, my video settings are fucked right now because I was doing some recording. Normally I cap my FPS at 300. So normally my FPS is at 300. Yeah, I've been watching a lot of Coach Sexy's videos, and he emphasizes deep flanks a lot. Yeah, absolutely. They're so powerful. Okay, so if you were running, and this is more of this is actually a pretty relatively, or a more modern composition and a style of attacking, is if you have, say, you know, you can even do this with only the tanks and the supports up here. So if you have, like, the Diva and the Winston here, and then a Zenyatta and a Mercy, the Zenyatta and the Mercy can stand where I am right now. I'm just leaking pro strats right now. So you can get a Zenyatta and a Mercy to stand right here, because the Mercy can damage boost the Zenyatta or heal the tanks, and the Winston and the Diva will be sitting around here, and they'll be pressuring in. If they, you know, if they need to get healed up, they just take one step to the left, and they've got a Zenyatta and a Mercy on that high ground right there. So you've got these tanks just kind of pressuring. You know, if they've got a Reinhardt that he's constantly shooting through, and you're just seeing how much you can get away with without dying. And then on the left side, if you were running something like a Sombra Tracer on the left side, Sombra hacks these two minis, and you've got Tracer here on the crossfire, the 180-degree crossfire, so the exact opposite side of the team. So they can either contest the pressure from the tanks, or they can contest you, but they can't do both. And then this angle here, look at that high ground right there. This is a perfect angle for Zenyatta to spam with his orbs. So pretty much, if the enemy supports are like here, you can pressure them. If they go here, you can pressure them. And there's nowhere that they can go that they aren't just constantly being assaulted and burning resources. So this is like a really, really slow push composition, but it would not work if you didn't have these flankers on the left side setting up this crossfire. So if you use like Sombra Tracer left, tanks at right choke, two supports protected on the high ground, easy clap first take. Easy clap first take. And if you pull this off, feel free to give me credit. But anyway. So yeah, you can definitely set up these really nice crossfires on Tracer. Is that a Smurf account? Yeah, this isn't a Smurf account. It's an account that I use to experiment on. I try and experiment with new play styles on this account. So I'll take like a character I know how to play on paper, and then I'll try to push the character to the extreme in one way or another, just to kind of learn what works and what doesn't. So that's a practice account, the one that I've got logged in right now. AKA throw account?
Cubist doesn't know his role here.
Maybe.
Not landed a hit here, but I'm sure it's someone else's fault we're losing. Yeah, it's probably Amara's fault we're losing.
What prevents the defensive tanks from pressing W and 4v6ing my team? Because you have the high ground, right? If they pressure your tanks too much, your tanks just jump back up to the high ground.
Tight trainer up here.
Easy. You've got higher mobility, so you can choose the engagements at your leisure. You gave up the crossfire. That's too bad. Nice stick.
That's much better by me.
A whole bunch of unnecessary blinks, but whatever.
I know there's a
And Tracer, or Torbjorn really is a harder counter to Tracer than most people think, especially if the turret draws aggro, or you draw the turret's aggro. It's such a pain in the ass to try and flank
Yeah,
on
very
Tracer.
offensive.
Man, I hate Torb when I'm playing Tracer.
Give a wee bit more room. This hood is actually making a lot of room for me. By the amount of res moves it's forward.
You are kind of quiet. I'm going to see... No, that is... It's too bad you're kind of like mumbling. We can't really hear your narration very well.
I know there's a turret around there, so I really don't want to fight into that. That'll be a
What's okay accuracy on Tracer? 39 to 45.
Man, very one on offense here. Start to get a wee bit more back in the stride.
Man, Stick's
Give a
worth
wee
it.
bit more room.
You killed
This
him.
hood is actually making a
Capped
lot
the
of room
point.
for me.
I would never be worried about like conserving Pulse Bomb. It charges so fast, just use it. Even if you miss, who gives a fuck? I like this crossfire here. You're kind of like forcing them to deal with you. They can't really hold bookstores. You give up the deep flanks so easily though. Like you get into location on these deep flanks and then you immediately use resources to get back to your team.
You're right up on top of
You're dead.
Reinhardt, and he's being forced to
Yeah, so I really don't like that you go on these deep flanks and you set up these nice crossfires, and then at some point you just bitch out and blink back to your team.
Get away from it. So what you do is you stand right up next to him, and you shoot. Come on, like inside your shield, basically.
Hey, Peter Godmez! Nice to see you.
And you put a shield down so your whole team does
Ooh,
extra damage.
that was pretty good aim. Oh, you just ate a helix. That's
Random
unfortunate.
fucking rocket
That was
I've
actually
ever
pretty
seen.
decent aim compared to, like, this is what I'm talking about here, where I keep saying that your acquisition speed is really quite good, but, like, we'll see this, is that you you don't lose track of him despite the really aggressive blink onto him.
And you shoot. Come on, like inside your shield, basically. So you do damage, and he swings. You blink away. And you put a shield down so your whole team does extra damage as well.
So yeah, like, you see how you blink and you're, like, already just naturally snapping to your target after your blink? I really like your acquisition speed here. You just fucking ate a helix, so... Will Tracer ever get changed, or will other heroes be brought so the DPS isn't just Tracer plus X? I don't know. Like, the reason that Tracer is so powerful is because of mobility, right? Mobility is king. So, thoughts on giving Lucio's boop a slight bit of damage when causing opponents to hit an object similar to Doomfist? Why? Is it really necessary? Um... Do. So he's good at flicking but not tracking? No, flicking and tracking are aiming techniques, and there's different kind of like things that go into aiming. So acquisition is how quickly you can get your crosshair onto target, and then tracking is how well you can keep your crosshair on that target as it moves around, and then reacquisition is how accurately and quickly you can get your crosshair back on target if it falls off. There's a few different things that are going on there. What do you think the future of Tracer Genji with Brigitte and Moira? I don't know. Meta predictions are so hard. I don't think it's worth... Like, theory crafting only goes so far. Until you kind of see how it works in practicality, there's not much value in guessing. Like, you can kind of get... The only real point I see in theory crafting is to try and come up with, like, 1 or 2 or 3 starting points of possible compositions at which you will test and experiment with, but absolutely nobody just looking at like statistics on a piece of paper is going to be able to tell you what the next meta is. So I don't know. Mind giving a small talk about Tracer's blink management during 1v1 duels after this VOD review? I probably won't have the time, sorry. We'll leave that to like a Tuesday or something. Good night, Kimball.
That was the most random fucking rocket I've ever seen. I was behind him. Soldier behind you. Again. That you're ignoring again. I'm sure that's my fault though.
I think my favorite thing about your playstyle on Tracer is that you do these really nice duels and engagements on people, and then about halfway through you just get lazy. You realize you've got a pulse bomb, and you're like, fuck it. Like, if you're gonna use your pulse bomb, just use it at the start of the fight. You're like, I don't got time for this shit. Take a stick. Bitch, get out my face.
I'm gonna go all the way around here. We just popped the defensive, so we should be okay at the back of this.
That's super fucking dangerous, dude.
I've got both.
You got to remember that Helix melee is a one shot. So if that soldier had been better, you'd have died instantly. You were in melee range and he still had Helix. All you had to do was right click melee. You would have died instantly.
Kill him.
Hello, play,
I'm gonna push
play.
him.
There we go. The other thing is that while you were flanking around to the left side, it's kind of like the timing of your flank. So not only is it the timing of your engagement that on defense, yes, on defense, when you kind of like were on the high ground, then you blinked onto the Zenyatta in the 1v6 situation, then were forced to like recall out. Your timing there was very poor. So you engaged in a 1v6. And here your timing was shit, but for a completely different reason, is that you were flanking while the enemy team had already started to engage on your team with Graviton and whatnot. And I think it was like a solid 6 or 7 seconds before you actually started getting value and contributing to that fight.
If I have a time
Yeah,
there.
so here, this is where it happens, right?
Weird silence. You're gonna see what happens.
So you get a kill, and then you're in subway for some reason. So if you were going to flank, now would be a good time to do it. And you wouldn't even, like, you eventually flank through this alley and come up through here. But if you wanted to get over in this location, especially at this point in time, you could just, like, cross. So
I'm gonna sit back here and hope that they push for this fight. If they don't, I'm gonna go round.
you sit back here and hope they're...
Okay, they're not fighting. I'm gonna go all.
So here they drop beat. That I would have immediately kind of like turned around, because at this point in time I'm facing away from the fight and I'm going on a flank. But they just dropped beat, which means that they're going to be engaging hard. So if I was going to flank, but then I hear that they were engaging, I'd immediately cancel these plans, turn around, and start trying to fight off the attack and help my team. Because not only like me flanking like this is going to make it not only a 5v6, but a 5v6 where they are using ultimates. So you've basically fucked your team here by not contributing to the fight where you didn't have the advantage anyway.
All the way around here. We just popped the defensive, so we should be okay at the back of this.
You should have died.
Death, but I've got both the skill downs, and I can see him. Kill him. I'm gonna push him.
Honestly, probably could have C9'd him. I definitely would have attempted the C9 before I actually started engaging him.
Get Lucio.
You actually got the Lucio. Hilarious. Because even if the C9's not successful, even if the C9 attempt is not successful, you will get some distance out of the payload for free if you attempt it. So don't shoot, don't give away your intentions or position, just kind of like stand on the payload. It doesn't make any noise when the payload starts moving. Yeah, and here your aim is back to potato. See? Your aim goes back to potato. Okay, let's look at this. Speed, 25. This is, okay, so you're masters. So here. Wow, sound is awful. Right, you're playing Texas Sharpshooter. It's not okay. That is not okay. Even if you kind of learn all of the game sense and the timing and whatnot, if you're in the right position at the right time, you've done everything properly, and then you go to just kill the person that you've gotten in position to do, and you just spray the floor, it doesn't really matter how smart you are if you can't aim. You do at some point actually need mechanical aim. So here, let's look at this again. Or are we a little bit too far back? I think we're a little bit too far back. Okay, so here we run into him, and we'll put the speed back down. Texas sharpshooter. Yeah, so I don't know what's causing it. Because you do have like really good acquisition speed, but sometimes your aim just goes full potato. I just want to watch it one more time in full speed, see if I can think of anything.
That was who? Just you? Oh my god, my aim. My aim. Alright.
You just fucking leave him. Okay. Tracer Fod PogChamp. Oh, wow. $25 clean sweep. Thank you so much. That's a lot of money, my friend. Appreciate the dono. And Gates and Logic has resubscribed Prime for 2 months. I'll show you a full potato. So like there's the two different there's the two main styles of tracking on Tracer. Do. So there's smooth tracking, right? And if we're like looking at this lamppost, and as I'm strafing around it, you see how I'm kind of like smoothly tracking it. This is, this is kind of like a predictive track, where if you know the path that the opponent is going to travel in, you just kind of move predictively. And if your crosshair goes off the target, there's no like flick. What you do is you just kind of like increase the speed of your tracking until you're back on the target, and then like you're doing minor adjustments in your tracking speed in order to keep your crosshair more or less on the target at all times. But the second type of tracking is used a lot better for targets that you can't really predict, and that's called micro flicking. So what you do is, instead of kind of like keeping your arm relaxed and moving based on prediction, what you do is you tense your forearm, and then you just make sure that your crosshair never goes off target. And if it goes off target, then you forcibly put your aim back on target. So I know I've covered this pretty much every time we look at a Tracer VOD. I always recommend micro flicking, but so smooth tracking is like and then if you can, if my aim falls off, I'll just slowly track back on. I'm gonna of course exaggerate bad aim here, but so if I smooth track and my aim goes off, I'll kind of like correct like this, right? So where's this bot here? So if I'm tracking this bot and I get off, I correct very slowly, and this is prone to overshooting. Whereas if I'm micro flicking and my crosshair goes off target, I will flick back on. So see if I can kind of like demonstrate. So it's like if I'm shooting and I go off target, in order to get back on, it's a flick back to center of mass before I start tracking again. So it's like flick, flick, flick. And then when you have to have a tense forearm here, but and then it just looks really twitchy and shaky. But and I'm trying to over exaggerate to make it what it looks like, because it's really, they're like, these bots move in perfectly predictable trajectories, so it's hard to practice micro flicking against predictable bots. But just if you are having trouble smooth tracking targets that can't be predicted, somebody who's AD strafing or kind of like crouching, moving around, you should learn to just tense your forearm and just force your aim to stay on target, and if it goes off target, flick it back on immediately. We should really just make some sort of command or process to teach micro-flicking in chat. Hello, Jayne. When shooting as Tracer, should I hold my left click or not? Yes, you should hold left click. Does flicking mean you're lifting your mouse? No. So there's wow, okay. There's kind of 3 different styles. No, fuck. Let's go get a McCree or something like that. So if we're on McCree, tracking is going to be having your crosshair already on the target and keeping it there. So this is tracking. I am tracking this bot. This is tracking. Flicking is where I'm off and I flick to the target like this. Flick to the target. So it's kind of like an instantaneous motion onto the target. I don't know why I'm missing. But, And there's even like there's two kinds of flick shots. There's kind of like two subcategories where if you kind of like drag your crosshair across the target and then pull the trigger at the right time, that's a drag shot. Whereas a flick shot is moving, yeah, and drag is kind of it's kind of like a prediction. You're moving your crosshair across the target and then pulling the trigger once they kind of lined up. But like the key thing that makes a flick shot is that you're not confirming that your crosshair is on the target. You just flick to the target, and then you know based on practice and muscle memory that your crosshair will be in the location where you want it to be, and then you pull the trigger. So it's kind of like, and the reason why flick shot is really good is because it's kind of like you've taken a momentary, like just snapshot of the enemy at that exact moment. Whereas a drag shot like this, the opponent will have an actual chance to like move around. And tracking, you have to track their prediction. If your flick shot is fast enough, it's basically their movement pattern is more or less worthless because your flick is so fast that their movement won't actually interfere with your aiming. So hopefully that kind of sums up the difference. Hey, Faria, good to see you. As well as Dirk Hardpeck, tier 1 for 2 months in a row. Here's a question. Will I be able to watch this video later on today, or when you're done, it's gone? No, if you click the videos section, there's like a videos tab button there. Follow my finger. It's like says videos. It's to the right of my name. If you click that, all of my VODs are archived. And they will also be uploaded onto YouTube. So we're just starting to upload stuff onto YouTube. So if you want to look at past VODs, things that aren't stored onto the actual video section, you can just do !YouTube. Does my aim need to be better than Potato if I'm a Phil main? Well, no, but at some point, it's going to hold you back. At some point, it's going to hold you back. Yeah, so you've got really good smooth tracking if the enemy is moving in like a predictable path, but you really struggle if anybody is using a movement pattern against you. Nice bomb. Zarya's got a big enough head hitbox that you should aim for her head, not for center of mass. Also, Zarya is just super easy for Tracer to kill. So I don't like the fact that you kind of like A, aimed for center of mass on a Zarya where you should have gone for her head, and B, left her alone when she was more or less a free kill from being separated from the rest of her team. Like, instead of going for the Zarya, you went after the two supports. So especially since the two supports weren't anywhere near that Zarya, she was a free kill. Should have killed her. Flicking goes against everything CS has ever taught me. Flicking is insanely inaccurate compared to tracking. It is really weird that a lot of OW pros do this twitching thing, and the thing where they flick both onto and off the target is absolutely illogical. Not really. Okay, fuck it. So if the screen is now my mouse pad. So if I'm an arm aimer, right? If I try and flick with my arm, this is very slow. This is very slow to flick with my arm. So the reason why people flick onto and off of their target is because they're flicking with their wrist. So they go flick, and then they return their wrist to the neutral position. So they go flick, 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 flick. And then in order to aim somewhere else, they move their arm. So hybrid aimers are the people who flick onto and back to neutral. That's the reason why you see this flick onto target and then back off of the target. It's the hybrid aimers, the people who are looking around with their arm, but flicking with their wrist. That's why people flick onto and then off of the target. How bad is it if you lift your mouse off your mouse pad? It's really not that bad.
Good, 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 trainer.
If you do it a lot, it can be disruptive, but it's really not that bad.
I know I'm taking damage from Mario.
Is Flower Nanohana? Yes.
I really expected that Ryan to just leave.
So yeah, you're still playing like this style of play here where you're with your team and you're attacking the same sort of sight lines from the same sight lines that the rest of your team is. You're basically playing mini soldier, right? You're playing soldier with no helix rocket, no healing station, and 50 less HP. You're attacking from the same sight lines. You're not really being as useful on Tracer as you could be. You know, you're not pressuring supports in order to kind of weaken their front line. You are attacking where the opponent is strong instead of using Tracer's kit in order to attack where the opponent is weak. You're kind of gotten lazy here. You've stopped narrated and you've gone onto autopilot. You've kind of like stopped thinking about anything but just shoot what's in front of me, hurt. So you got to constantly be thinking about where you can be getting your maximum advantage on Tracer and trying to get into these deep flanks where you can just fuck with supports and whatnot. But you're basically playing mini soldier here. And anytime you're playing mini soldier, it would be better to just be playing soldier. Irakish, prime sub. Thank you very much, my friend. Another grab. Jesus, how many do they have? I probably wouldn't have pulse bombed here, mostly because the fight is already over. Like, opening up a fight with a pulse bomb is really good. You got the DMEC, though. That's huge. Man, you could actually get through here. No. So, like, the Reinhardt, you pulse bombed the Reinhardt, and he's gonna be back. Right? He's back. So he's back before it mattered that you got that kill. So it was a good kill, but it wasn't one that actually had any impact on the fight itself. So I definitely would have saved that pulse bomb for the start of the engagements once your team was about to engage. And I like your pulse bombs. Like, your pulse bombs are missing, yes, but I like the fact that you're not hesitating to use them, and you're not kind of being interrupted thinking too hard about how to actually use your pulse bomb. And it's not something you're doing, but it's something that a lot of other tracers do, where they think way too hard about their pulse bomb. And you know, so a tracer who's just being a tracer is gonna be like, pew pew pew, I'm over here, pew pew pew, recall, pew 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 pew. But as soon as those kind of like tracers get pulse bomb, they stop shooting, they go wide eyed, and they start doing like integral calculus in their head, and then they're like, blink stick, ah shit, I missed, and then they recall. Like, normal tracers really telegraph their pulse bombs, and it really reduces their value because they overthink. And I love how you're just kind of like weaving your pulse bomb into your tracer play. So I really like it. Yes, you're missing, but it'll come with time. But like the execution of using your pulse bomb, you know, you could be doing some like fancy techniques like pulse bomb and then blink to lower the animation time. But like the way you're thinking about your pulse bombs specifically, I actually really quite like. This feels like 37. This feels like 37 somewhere in there. Oh, you got right clicked.
What these guys are expecting me to do. Like, they keep pulling everything together. Like, I don't have bombs. Fact.
How can I practice better acquisition on Tracer? Give yourself infinite blinks in a custom game against 6 bots and just go fucking nuts.
I don't have it. I can't bomb.
Wow, that was 3,900.
I have it.
That was 3,900. Aim absolutely needs to be one of the major things that you work on. So the 3 things that I'd give you to work on to improve your Tracer play is just your aim. So you've got really nice smooth tracking, but at some points you just have the dumb. You are infected by the dumb. And I think having that second aim style, I'm not telling you to exclusively micro track, because the best tracer players will smooth track when they have to and micro track when they have to. But I didn't see you do, or not micro track, micro flick. And I didn't see any micro flicking in your gameplay at all. So definitely a skill you want to gain and practice. The second thing that I want you to work on your tracer is your timing. So engaging when it's actually relevant, not pulse bombing after a fight's done, engaging in a backline when the actual front line is being pressured, things like that. And then the third thing is your positioning, is that you weren't spending enough time on flanks that actually mattered or were effective. 90-degree flanks are one thing, 180-degree flanks can be absolutely terrifying, especially if you're forcing the opponent to retreat onto you and you are controlling the mega or the mini that they would normally use to stabilize themselves. So if you're like controlling a health pack, using it as your base, and you're using that as a method to sustain yourself in a deep flank situation, yikes, it can cause a lot of chaos. So those are the three things I'd have you work on. How do I get better movement? Deathmatch against higher level players. This is just a horrific game, I microflick. I can beat top 500 tracers in duels consistently. This is just a horrific game. Oh, okay. I'm top 500 now. You're top 500 now? I'd be lying if I said I wasn't surprised. Either way, congratulations on top 500, my friend. Yeah, absolutely. Congrats. When should a tracer flank and when should she stay close to the team? Tracers, like 90% of the time, should be flanking. The only time that you shouldn't be flanking is if their backline is like really well protected and there's nothing you can get done without of a pulse bomb. And if like the opponent has a tracer that you can make fuck off by, if you have a Zenyatta and they have a tracer and you're on tracer and their backline is protected, you could like take the 1v1 against their tracer with Harmony Discord advantage. And I'm sure you could come up with a whole bunch of other contrived situations, but in like 95% of situations, tracer is best when flanking. We're still timing out Chair-Sith. Hilarious. How do I get better? Yeah, I already answered that. I don't know what set of characters to main in comp. How can I tell I'm better at certain characters than others? Overbuff stats, yes. But okay, who cares? Honestly, who gives the remotest of a fuck about what you're best at? Play what you enjoy. Because if you're playing the character that you enjoy, you will never lack the motivation to improve on that character. So, fuck trying to figure out who you're best at. Figure out who you enjoy and play that. Hanzo it is. Man, wouldn't be the first time. Are Genji and Tracer the best 2 DPS to learn to master? More worth it than Soldier or Pharah in the long run, right? I don't know. No, not necessarily. Like, Genji's pretty weak in solo queue. Strong in, like, 6v6 play, but weak in solo queue. Tracer is always strong. I don't know. It's, like, Soldier and Pharah are both very good characters, too, so... If I schedule an appointment, how much time will it take you to coach? If you schedule an appointment, it's going to actually be at the time, unless something crazy happens. Did you see how Dallas lost another main tank? Yes. Is there a set of settings for better audio? I find vertical tracking targets with sound in this game is very hard. Like, really, audio is only going to give you an advanced warning. After that, it's just kind of a situational awareness of knowing where they are. It's hard to have fun getting your teeth kicked in. That's why people ask these questions. Like, yes, but no matter how good you are, the game is going to force you towards a 50% win rate, right? You're just going to do it at a different icon. You're going to have a different shiny icon in the bottom left corner, but the games don't really get better. If you want to have better teams and you want to control more over like winning or losing, stop playing ranked. Stop playing competitive, join a team, and start scrimming and competing in tournaments. Tournaments, like, scrims and tournaments are so much fun. Way better than the ranked mode. So, if you're wondering about which character to play because you're tired of losing, doesn't matter. You're always going to have pretty close to a 50% win rate no matter how good you are. Any advice for Tilt?